everyone, today's video is a very quick and simple one about a topic we all cringe when we hear: head lice. So the fancy name for it is pediculosis capitis, and that just means sort of parasites or lice of the head. And if you're watching this video, you may be currently already creeped out or freaking out because of this diagnosis if your child has it. So first of all, take a deep breath. Don't panic. We can treat this. This is common. So it turns out head lice are most common in white folks and much less common in black folks. We don't even know precisely why, but most likely has to do with the composition of the hair shaft itself or natural oils on the scalp. But for whatever reason, they're more common in white folks and in girls than boys. It's not just the length of the hair either. We don't know why, but they are more common in girls. So a lot of people are freaked out because they envision these little tiny creepy crawlies hopping from one child's head to the other in elementary school, or hopping off the blanket or the carpet when they're sitting on their time for reading books. But actually, the children have to be head to head. The head lice can crawl, and they can crawl quickly, but they can't hop, jump, or fly. So they're not just gonna leap across the classroom to another child. And it's thought to be much less common for them to be transferred on vectors such as shared hats and combs and brushes and that sort of thing. So it's mostly head to head. The thing is, this is pretty easy in an elementary school classroom for children to hug each other, to be sitting, to take a selfie together and put head to head. And so it's really not uncommon for children to have the chance to share head lice. Now, remember, I told you not to panic. The only thing that could be actually dangerous to your child is if you really freaked out and did something unhealthy. I did have years and years ago a case of two siblings whose dad panicked at the diagnosis of head lice and used kerosene on the children's head. This landed them in the pediatric intensive care unit. So just let's keep everything in perspective. Head lice, sure, they're gross and creepy and everybody hates the thought of them, but they're not actually dangerous to your child. They cannot give them a fatal illness or cause hospitalization or anything like that unless you do something crazy and stupid. So let's keep this all in perspective. For the lifespan of the louse, isn't that a great word? The female louse lives for about a month. The problem is she's a very productive female louse. She can lay anywhere from 7 to 10 eggs every single day. And then each of the eggs takes about 8 days to hatch, and then there's a nymph phase for about 8 more days, and then the louse is considered a mature adult. So it's the mature adults, of course, that can crawl rapidly from head to head, and once the adult female louse begins to lay eggs, she will cement them to the bottom of the hair shaft of the host. So this is what is going to separate when you're trying to figure out if your child actually has head lice. If you see little white flakes and they move around, that's just dandruff or dead skin or flakes or pieces of scabs or lint. It's not a nit or an egg, because those are actually cemented to the bottom of the hair shaft. So you can tell the difference. So what if you get a note home from school and it says there have been cases in your child's class and you want to check your child's hair? First of all, it's very easy to miss them. They're small. Adult head lice are about 2 to 3 millimeters, and they're sort of a gray beige color. You can Google a picture of them, but to me, in real life, they sort of look like a tiny grasshopper, except they're more beige gray color. And they're gonna be moving. I mean, if you find them on the scalp, they will be moving. And the nits we talked about, sort of an oval white egg at the very base of the hair follicle that's hard to scratch off. So what you would do if you wanted to look for them, trying to make a diagnosis, and first of all, your child should be itching a lot, and most of the eggs are at just above the neck and the back of the scalp. The adults can be all over the scalp. The itching may be all over the scalp or very intense on the neck. I had a patient once that came in just for a neck rash. Oh, and unfortunately, the mom had already suspected lice but didn't tell me, so I was getting all up close to her neck looking at this rash and realized her scalp was moving and backed up pretty quickly. But she just had a rash on her neck from scratching so much because they're so itchy. So sometimes that's your first clue. So back to diagnosis. You can wet your child's hair, even with conditioner, and then get a fine-tooth comb and start at the very base and very meticulously comb through looking for the nits or adult head lice. And usually that's probably the best way to try to diagnose or to try to see them. Trust me, it is really not necessary to come into your pediatrician's office to get them diagnosed. You're usually better off going to the school nurse who has more experience, or just doing this wet comb approach at home looking for them. You know, if you do find them and you want to treat your child, obviously, before they're sent back to school, there are multiple over-the-counter options, including Rid and Nix, and most of these use a permethrin or permethroid based medicine to kill them. Now, remember how we talked about the eggs could hatch out in about 8 days? That's why a lot of these packaging will have you treat and then retreat after about another week later to catch any that could have hatched in the meantime after the first treatment. It is true that heat can desiccate or dry out the eggs, and so there are some commercially available machines that can blow hot air, or you can use a hair dryer on high heat, but the specifics we can talk about in the office if you come in and we chat about this, but I won't get into those specifics. There are places like Pediatric Hair Solutions that their entire goal is just to help calm down families and treat head lice, and then provide, as a part of the package deal, rechecks to make sure they're not reinfested. So if you have tried the over-the-counter and the fine-tooth combing and you are still finding active infestations, you can always call your pediatrician's office. There are prescription products we can try. Some of them, like Ovide, have to be left on overnight and are very flammable. You have to be extremely careful with that. Some of them, like Lice, are more of almost like a conditioner consistency and just have to be left on several minutes and then combed back out. I do always recommend a fine-tooth comb, even though some of the brand names say that you don't have to. I do recommend it because I think it makes it more effective. And then there's a great ongoing controversy over the no-nit policy. A lot of schools have this, but a lot of health professionals feel like if the treatment was effective, you could still have some already killed nits in place that probably shouldn't prevent the child from returning to school. So there's still a little bit of controversy around that with different school systems, their individual policies. So make sure you know what the policy is for your child, and make sure you do a thorough review before they go back to school. It is okay to use medicines to help with their scalp itching, even after you've done the treatment, because the itch can continue for up to a week, even after an effective treatment and killing of the head lice. So remember, don't panic. There are medications available. Call your pediatrician's office if you need further details or further assistance with treating your child's head lice, and just don't panic. It'll be all right.